You know who it is. Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the Friends of ADOS TV channel. Yes, bringing you those ADOS hot topics and making the case today for the COVID-19 relief from Ground Zero, New York City, family. Yes, I am so grateful to God, family. Woo! My brother, today we go way back. Yes, we do. All the way back to our theater, television, and film days over 20 years ago in the Apple. He is near and dear to me, family. And I don't know about you, but there are certain people that come to mind when the world gets to spinning off its axis. And this would be one of those brothers. My brother from another mother, Eric L. Brown, ESQ. Yes, he's an attorney now, family, and doing amazing things. He's KA side. This brother is cold to the bone. And when this COVID started sweeping through New York City, and I called my brother and he didn't respond, I text my brother, he didn't respond. Woo-wee. I just got to praying, family. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And then on today, God delivered me one of many Happy Mother's Day blessings when my brother reached back. And I learned that he is overcoming COVID-19. Yes, my biggest fear had come upon me, but not to fret. This brother is washed in the blood. Do you hear me? No weapon, baby. No weapon. They may form, but they will not prosper because this brother has a covering over his life like many of us do. We know who we are. What I tell y'all all the time, you are the face of God, right? You are the voice of God. You are the living temple of the Spirit of the living God. And when you hold on to that, COVID is no contest for you. You understand me, family. You know I love you, Black. I love you strong. Hey, Robin Felix, baby. Thank you for joining the live. What's up, Trey X ADOS? Peace, family. Thank you for joining the line. So my brother decided the minute I called on him to do so, that he would give of his time this evening to talk about the COVID-19 ravaging New York City, family. Woo-wee. You know, because the news is not going to tell it in the ADOS way that we need to hear this, right, family? They're holding things back. They're holding the data back, okay? But the truth, crushing the earth, shall always rise. They can't keep the truth from us, family. And my brother is here to share all about his ordeal. It was horrific. I wouldn't miss it. I wouldn't wish this on the enemy. What he has been through, what he is continuing to grow through. But you know what I love about ADOS? Thank God we don't look like what we've been through. His face and just his whole disposition is just illumined by that Christ that's within him, family. The God in him said no to COVID, not my child. You cannot have him. He has work to do. And so I believe that every trial that we triumph over is not just for our victory solely. It is for us to liberate others. And so we got to grow through different things to bring different messages to uplift the people and show them the face of God. Standing on our square, believing, holding on, doing all we can, knowing we might be alone, but we're never lonely because that God in us is there every step of the way, guiding us, directing us, ordering our steps, surrounding us by angels, all around us, family. I'm telling you, COVID's arms are too short to box with the God we serve. So when this music plays out, I'm just giving you guys a few minutes to get into the chat. I want you to track your questions, your comments, because you know you're my co-host, right? You know how we do it. So make sure you got your notepad because we're going to be offering up solutions on how You can build up your immune system and start your watch parties, family. You know my intro. That's what it's all about. Allowing more of you to file in so you can join me live. It's a very special day. My brother has returned to me like the prodigal brother. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Introducing the one, the only, Eric Brown.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Peace and love to everyone who's watching and who's attending this. I'm very grateful to be here. I'm very grateful to be here. And
Oh,
it, and like my sister Angela said, we go way back to banking days, into theater days, television and film days. We go back decades, and she is truly a sister from another mother. Not
yeah,
even another mother. She's my sister.
I'm
She's
your
my sister.
sister.
She's my sister.
Oh, Lord, I'm going to try not to cry, y'all. I love this man so much. We had the great privilege. I forgot that we met through Chase Bank in
Yes.
Brooklyn until
Yes.
you just brought that to my remembrance. And it's been a journey.
It certainly has. And I'm grateful to be here to share whatever I can. And I just want to say, for anyone who is watching, if they have a family member, a friend who has COVID symptoms, who has tested positive for COVID, or who has had COVID and has tested negative, I'm sending you peace, light, and love, because it's not just a 14-day thing. It continues. It continues. It's not just 14 days as what you hear in the news when they say isolate yourself for 14 days. We have brothers and sisters in our community who are passing away after they have been told that they are COVID negative. And that's something that needs to be known, that if you have COVID, or if you have a family member or a friend who has been through this pandemic, that just testing positive, testing negative doesn't mean that it's over for you. You still need to follow up with your doctors, and you still need to pay attention to what your body is telling you, because there may be underlying factors and underlying complications that may stay with you for a while longer, that doctors, they still don't even know what they are or how long, but these are things that you should be aware of.
Can you start from the beginning and what
Okay,
you shared with me earlier today about how the COVID unfolded in you, please?
sure. It's like at first I was being very careful when they started to broadcast on the news what was happening, and when it was still more prevalent in Northern California. I was wearing gloves and carrying Clorox wipes with me on the subway, and just being extremely careful when I go shopping, things of that sort. So at one point in time, this was say early in March, I noticed that I was not feeling myself. And so I was thinking to myself, well, I must be coming down with the flu or something like that. I was just feeling down. I was feeling tired. I had like chills and just not feeling myself. Nothing where I could say I was flat laid out or anything like that. So I took care of myself. It lasted for like 3 days. And then, I felt better. I had like a really deep sweat, and I was thinking, okay, I feel better. I sweated it out, and that's that. And at this time, I was home. Um, I wasn't working, and there was something that had happened at work where we had been told to stay home until till things would be corrected at work. There was a situation that was happening there. I'm an attorney, and so a few weeks later, we were told to return to work. However, I had known that we would probably not be there for long because of the COVID pandemic was increasing, and that we would probably start to work from home once the client approved a remote work process. So I went to work for about 4 or 5 days. I was on the subway. And at this time, this is when they were telling us that if you did not have symptoms, if you were not sneezing or coughing, you did not need to wear a mask. It was only for those who had symptoms, sneezing, coughing, sore throat, whatever. If you were to go out to wear a mask. So me, I'm like, okay, this is what they're telling us. I don't need a mask. I'm on the subway for these 4 or 5 days, without a mask, yet I'm not touching anything. I'm not sitting down. I'm just standing by the door and just waiting for my stop. Um, so we ended up coming home to work, from home. And then normally I run every night. And I started to notice when I was coming from running that I was feeling a little bit dizzy and just a little, just like not with my full breath. And I'm like, well, I run every day and this is how I'm feeling. So I'm thinking, you know what? It must be the Clorox wipes. It must be the Lysol spray, because I noticed that I was having trouble like breathing and just like some sort of pressure on my chest whenever I came from running. So that's what I associated it with. I associated it with the Clorox and the, you know, washing things that I was washing my hands with and that I was washing the door. That's when I noticed that my symptoms came. So the symptoms were like there, and I'm still thinking, okay, so this must be it. I'm having some sort of reaction. Okay, it's going to fade. But I associated it never faded with the Clorox and
Give me a second,
I think
please.
you have a playback. Okay. Washing things that I was washing my hands with and that I was washing the door. That's when I noticed that my symptoms came.
Just give me 1 second. Don't lose your thought.
Okay. Washing my hands with and that I was washing the door. That's when I noticed that my symptoms came.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. So I just so happened to be speaking with a college friend of mine who had contracted COVID. He contracted and his entire family had it. And he was telling me of his experience. And then as I was talking to him on the phone, water just gushed from my nose. And
Like
I'm
how
like,
much
what?
water exactly? Like not just a runny nose, but
It
like good.
wasn't, it was like water. It wasn't like it had like mucus or anything in it. It just fell from my nose onto my shirt. Just no warning, no anything. And I was like, oh, wow. So I had an appointment with my doctor the next day. So I said, well, I'm going to bring this to his attention. I had a previous appointment. This was a Sunday night. I had a previous appointment with him that Friday, but in New York, everything basically shut down, and even doctors was not seeing you inside their office anymore. So I said, okay, I will speak to him on video and let him know what's going on. So the next day, as he started to ask me how I was doing, I started to tell him, you know what, I was feeling this way, but I think it's my Lysol. And he's like, no, Mr. Brown, I believe that you have COVID. You have COVID symptoms. He said you have chest pressure and and you are feeling faint and you're having trouble breathing. That's not the Lysol. So I'm like, oh, really? Okay. I was thinking it was a light on. He's like, no, that's not what it is. Those COVID symptoms. So he was asking me whether or not I can breathe. And I said, yeah, I can breathe. But when I take a deep breath, I do feel my chest is more like sore inside, like where my sternum is located. And then so he was like, all right, well, he asked me, did I have a fever? And I said, nope, I've taken my temperature. I don't have a fever. However, I'm a type of person who I don't normally get a fever. I run really cool. So my temperature will rise, but I am not going to produce a fever. I just don't produce fevers. So he was like, okay, well, I would like to send you for testing. However, if I send you for testing, they're going to not test you because you have to show that you have a high fever or that you can't breathe. So that
And
knocked
can
me
you
out from
share,
getting tested.
and can you share why that is problematic that you don't get a test unless you have a fever or cannot breathe? Wouldn't you venture to say that COVID is too widespread in your body to really rebound if you wait until you cannot breathe to be tested?
That was my issue with him. I would say that, well, is there something that you can do so that I don't wake up in the middle of the night and I just can't breathe? Because that was my fear, that my chest was hurting and that I'm watching the news and I keep hearing of stories of people, they were okay, they had small symptoms, but in the middle of the night or in the morning, they couldn't get up, they couldn't breathe, or they got up and they passed out, or someone in their family found them on the floor not living. So he said that, well, there's really nothing that he could prescribe for me because they don't know anything about it. He said the only thing he can say is to treat myself as if I have a bad cold or the flu. And that's what I did. It was like after that day, that's when the symptoms really started to show up more. The pressure on my chest turned into more of like a squeeze, and then that turned into more of like someone punched me in my chest. So I would literally feel as if someone punched me in my chest for weeks. And that's the way I felt. And the thing was like, when I would go to sleep, it would go away. By the time the morning would come, it would go away. But soon as I was to start moving, it would come back. And someone explained to me, they said that, well, that's because when you are sleeping, you have a thin layer on your lungs that the virus is peeling away that layer. So that's part of the chest pain. But as well, you have pain because it's like when you have a sore or something, it kind of hurts because it's healing. It's like the virus is attacking and the body is trying to heal at the same time.
And is this why there are so many post COVID issues? Because the whole body is working very hard to fight the COVID, to heal the body from the COVID. And because it's not accustomed to this type of virus, it's depleting the heart, the kidneys, your pressure, it's eroding certain body parts. Do you think that there's a correlation between why people are dying after getting a diagnosis that they're free and clear of the COVID, but they're dying from these other issues because the body was in the fight of its life to overcome COVID?
From what I understand is that what COVID does is it causes other complications. It causes complications with your blood vessels. It causes complications with your kidneys. It causes complications with your heart. It causes complications with your liver. And a lot of times these things are not giving the full consideration of, especially when you're in the hospital. I believe that they are just basically treating your lungs and seeing whether or not you test positive or test negative for you to be released from the hospital, or just whether or not you can breathe. That seems to be the main thing, is whether or not you can breathe on your own. and and patients are being released. However, they have all of these other complications. They will treat you. I have a relative where she had developed blood clots by her heart, and they gave her blood thinners. However, they did not keep her in the hospital for long. Once she was able to breathe on her own, they sent her home.
Okay.
And this is an issue as well, where in New York we've had a lot of people who have been sent home and they have passed away after they were sent home. And as well as there have been people who have tested negative after testing positive. However, there are still some post viral complications that still exist or that come up, which compromises their health, and in some cases causes them to die.
So it feels like we're between a rock and a hard place with this COVID, because we also discussed how a lot of them are being released back into the home and how we're living on top of each other, and there'll be 5 or 6 people within the house. And that's why it spread so fast in New York, because of how much we're in close proximity, not able to practice social distancing. And if you're asymptomatic and you're in the home, it could easily be contracted from your fellow family members and friends who are in the home. This is
Very true.
problematic. And then you've got these tenement high-rise buildings that are toxic. These places are toxic. Hold on one second. I gotta silence this phone. That's my mom. I thought she was on the live watching, and she's calling. Mommy, just join the live, please. Anyway, you've got these high-rise tenement public housing buildings that
Mhm.
are health hazards in and of itself, because we've been environmentally redlined into very hazardous, toxic conditions in these buildings that have air pollutants and toxins in the air ducts,
Mhm.
and lead in the paint and lead in the water. So if you're releasing a patient from the hospital and sending them back into those type of conditions in the inner city, how are they going to have the fortitude to fight and overcome the COVID in those conditions?
Exactly. Exactly. You're double compromised.
Can you talk about what happened when you, let's just share more of your story. When you got off the phone with your doctor, it felt like, and with your buddy, your frat buddy, whose family had been inflicted all the way around with the COVID, your symptoms started coming on hard and heavy. What happened next, please?
Well, the thing is that what I noticed is the more you move around during the day, the tougher your night experience would be. From what I experienced, is at nighttime is when my headache would be extreme to the point where it wouldn't even be tears that would come from my eyes. It would be water would just gush from my eyes from just the pressure. And my chest would pound. And this is something that I would deal with at nighttime. During the day, I would get just more so just tired, because mind you, during the entire time I was working. So I would take a million breaks, a million 15-minute breaks, just to not even to sleep, just to just lay on my back and to just close my eyes, to just to to just relax my body, you know.
So what about Mario Cuomo? advising everybody to get active.
Well,
Everybody that's got Mario Cuomo is suggesting you get active while impacted by the COVID, not to lay down, not to stay idle, get to moving. What about
well,
those claims?
well, from from my experience, you would feel better when you rest your body, because that's when the body has time to heal and to do its job, as opposed to the more that I would sit up, even just sitting up, the earlier that I would start to feel those nightly symptoms of just feeling extremely weak, like something is just taking over my body. Say if I moved around less during the day, I can get to like 10 o'clock without the symptoms coming on like really, really strong. But if I moved around a lot, like by the time like 6 o'clock came, the symptoms will come on like really, really strong, especially with me, the chest pain and the headache.
Was a headache, and I don't know if you've ever had migraines and can compare it, but could you describe what the headache was like?
The
Not
headaches
was it
would
like
just,
a dehydration kind of headache, or was it like a migraine?
it would be different types of headaches. I would have a headache like in the front. I would have a headache like sometimes in the back. Sometimes felt like something was on top of my head. And some days I would just have a headache all day long. And then some days it would just come and go, come and go, come and go, come and go, come and go. And it wasn't until, I'm jumping ahead, but it wasn't until I was in the emergency room that they explained to me I was having a headache because my blood pressure was just crazy. That's what COVID was doing. It was giving me high blood pressure. And I'm someone who generally has low blood pressure because I run a lot. So my blood pressure tended to be low, but here I am with high blood pressure now and taking high blood pressure medicine as a result of this, because my body is just still out of balance.
Go ahead and pick up where you left off, in terms of how you got to the hospital and the fear surrounding even going to the hospital, because they're not allowing family to come into the hospital, and they're not allowing, it's like some of them are going in and it's a point of no return. Their
Yes.
families can't advocate for them, the families can't get autopsies. Could you just please share about your fear and the story surrounding how you finally overcame your fear to get to the hospital?
Well, it came down to where um my symptoms had like left, because what happens with this virus is you go through periods of you feel awful, and then all of a sudden you wake up one morning, you're like, I feel great. It's over, it's done. And it's like, no, 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 no. I'm gonna come back and visit you at nighttime. So that's what happened. I went through like um it had been 2 weeks, and I had been told, my doctor had told me, and others who I know who have experienced it has said that you're going to have like a week where you're going to experience the symptoms, and then you're going to have basically a down period. And then after that down period, it's going to come back, but it's going to come back stronger. And once you get through that, then that means that you have basically broken the virus and you have passed it. However, I went through that, and I had like a day and a half where I felt better. However, my chest pain came back and my headache just would not leave. It just stayed with me. So I contacted my doctor and I said that I'm still having chest pains. However, now it's like I can feel my heart like pound as my chest is pounding. So he was saying, well, you have to go to the emergency room. He was said, just call the emergency room. And I was saying, well, I don't want to go there because I don't know what's going to happen to me there. Because I'm like, I can't You can't have anyone go with you. And I'm saying, I don't know where they're going to put me. Whereas my cell phone may, the battery may die, or they may not even let you use a cell phone. How can anyone in my family be able to communicate with me? Or I know that there's a lot of people. How do I know that if things go wrong or go in a way where I can't communicate for myself, how do I know whether the healthcare professionals will be able to communicate with my family? So he was like, just we'll do this. If you still are having chest pains in the morning, you get up and you go or you call, 911, and maybe they will come pick you up. Maybe they won't, because they have so many people and they are rational in who they go and they pick up now. Yeah, it had gotten to be that crazy. So I was like, okay, so the next day the chest pain went away. But then 2 days later, it came back like really strong. So I'm thinking, okay, I don't want to go to the hospital. What I will do is I will go to urgent care, because I know urgent care, they have equipment to take care of you there. So I said, that's what I'll do instead of going to the hospital. However, when I went to urgent care, they took x-rays, and they said, well, we can see that you've passed the virus. However, you're still having chest pain, so you do have to go to the emergency room. So there I was, just like I have to go to the emergency room. However, they said that being that you're having chest pains, you have to see a cardiologist. We recommend that you see a cardiologist. And I'm like, okay, I'm thinking that this is a disease of the lungs. And here the doctors are telling me now about my heart. And I'm like, okay, now we're on my heart. So I'm like, all right. So I ended up in the emergency room, and I mean, it was a experience of something that you see in the movie. It's like everywhere that you look, in every place that they can put a body, they had a body there. They had bodies, they had people in beds in the hallway, by the public bathroom, by the freight room, by the door where like the ambulance walk. Everywhere they can put a bed, they have someone there. You know, luckily for me, I didn't end up in a situation like that. I just happened to, when I went there, they just said, 50-year-old male with chest pain. They took me and they gave me a spot, and I was not out in the open, and they started to do their job on me. They hooked me up to the IV and asked me a bunch of questions, start taking my vitals and things of that sort. But it was just not something that you would want to see. And just going to the hospital, you see it's just surrounded with freezer trucks
Freezer trucks for the bodies?
for the bodies, long freezer tractor trailers, white. And I'm going into the hospital, and I'm thinking to myself, is it just felt like, to me, I was just walking towards death, because I'm like, okay, the hospital is surrounded by just
Death.
trucks with, I know what's in it, and here I am. And then when you go inside the emergency room in the triage area, you just see bodies everywhere. And I mean to tell you, I didn't want to move. I didn't want to lay down. I didn't want to touch anything. I didn't want to do anything. And yeah, but what I would say is that, where I went, the healthcare professionals, they were on their job. They were on their job. They made me lose some of the fear, because I guess they're just so used to being there, but it's all that you hear is people coding, 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 coding. You hear the alarm, boom, 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 and them going because someone is coding all night long, all night long.
Can you explain to my audience what coding means?
That means that someone is basically they're dying, and they need to be shocked. So that's all you hear when you're in the hospital.
What happened? Because they would not give you the COVID test because you didn't have a fever, right?
No, but that's the thing. Once you are in the hospital, see, that's the thing where I found out as well. This is where maybe my doctor may have made an error, or probably at that time, I probably would not have gone either. But if you have chest pain, they have to see you. You don't need a fever, you don't need anything. If you have chest pain, they will see you immediately. And that's what happened to me. Soon as I presented myself to the hospital, I said I had chest pain. They basically made the world all about you. So, however, when I went into the hospital, they did have signs saying that if you have just common flu or cold symptoms, that this was not the place for you. They could not treat you.
But how do they know? Because based on what I found out about what I believe was COVID for me, in
Hmm.
October of 2017, I watched a Netflix special about the COVID. They said the symptoms, there was a myriad of symptoms, but I had fever, I couldn't smell, I couldn't taste.
Hmm.
I was coughing incessantly, like a lung was going to come up, and
Hmm.
I had fatigue. The top
Hmm.
5 fundamental symptoms that I had of the COVID, my doctor called it severe acute bronchitis, walking pneumonia.
Hmm.
Now, I, like you, am otherwise extremely healthy to be 53.
Hmm.
I have a prayer and meditative lifestyle. I power walk on the beaches where I live. Down the street is the beach. I drink my water regularly. Um, and I've been otherwise extremely healthy. But in October of 2017, I felt like I was near death, but they didn't call it the COVID. So for me, why are they sending people away with flu like, pneumonia like, bronchial like symptoms when they outline it in the documentary that these are some of the beginning symptoms of COVID? And to me, if you're turning them away without testing them for COVID because they've got flu or cold like symptoms, which is what COVID is symptomatic of, now you're sending them home to die
Hmm.
because you had an opportunity when they first came in, when it was mild like a flu or a cold, to test then and there and start to treat to stave off the COVID, because that's what my antibiotics did. I had a
Hmm.
10-day supply of antibiotics. The thing lasted 5 months. When I had a relapse first quarter last year, I got ahead of it. They administered 3 shots consecutively over 3 days to the buttocks, plus the 10-day. And what was 5 months the first time was 2 weeks. So to me, when you're sending them home because they only have the flu-like symptom or the cold-like symptom, you're sending them home like Russian roulette. They're playing with their lives because you can't treat this with over-the-counter drugs. I drank a whole bottle of Robitussin before I broke down and went to see a doctor. And the travesty in that is, as a 1099 independent contractor working in the courts with immigrants on both sides of the aisle, They're injured workers and the lawyers that I litigate and negotiate with.
Mhm.
We're all coming to work sick because we don't have sick leave.
Mhm.
And so I'm almost certain I contracted it there, plus the other stresses of regular life stuff. It made me a COVID playground.
Mhm.
Stress is another thing that can make your body a COVID playground. And how you can contract it because stress wears down the immune.
It wears down your immune system. Exactly.
So an otherwise
Exactly.
healthy person, if they're going to work while sick, it's a COVID playground. It's easy for flu or cold to morph into a COVID if not detected early. I'm alive because she treated it. She treated the flu. She treated the bronchitis. She treated the walking pneumonia. What if they were at least treating that?
See, that's the thing. What I need for you to acknowledge here is that the hospitals were overwhelmed. So they were only seeing patients who presented themselves who could not breathe. That's what was going on. They were sending people home. If you could breathe on your own, they were sending you home. Even if they tested you, they would send you home. But still, at that time, to get a test, you had to present with the fever. You had to present with the fever. It's like in New York, there have been different stages. Now the CDC has upgraded, their list of symptoms. However, each hospital don't have to follow that list. You know, you have Mount Sinai does one thing, NYU does another. The city hospitals, they do another, you know? They don't have to follow the list of what the CDC puts out as to who they are going to test. Even like right now, it's like some places will test you if you are an essential worker, as opposed to other places now they have the churches are testing anyone, you know. But at one point in time, they were not testing everyone. Say like in Brooklyn, your situation concerning getting testing was totally different compared to someone in Nassau County or Suffolk County. Because I actually had someone out there who had contacted another friend of mine, was like saying, you know what, I'm going to get him an appointment so he can come out here and get tested, because they are testing out here because they have less people, and out there they have more tests available. However, in New York City, they just rationalized who they were going to give the test to. And they only gave the test to, at that time, to those who basically just could not breathe.
And to me, if you cannot breathe, they're preparing a body bag for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you catch it when the people first come in with the complaints, you have an opportunity to survive. Let's talk about these tests.
Hmm.
How is it that, let's talk about the validity of the negative and the positive, and how you can test negative and still have the COVID, and how you can test positive and be asymptomatic. What's
Well,
really
well,
going on with the test?
well, this is the thing. It's You have different companies producing different tests, and not all of them work well as you have different people performing tests, and they sometimes they just don't perform the test properly. So you can actually have COVID and get a negative test. as well as, with they have these tests to determine whether or not you've had it at some point, where they're recommending that you get more than one of those tests, because they're not, they're not sufficient, they're saying, so they recommend to say, like, if you want to find out whether or not you had COVID at some point, they say that you say, if you take one, you get one and is negative, take another one.
But to me, it's inconsistent.
Hmm.
It's not a real way to determine whether or not you have it. If there's not a standard. Did you read or listen to the story about Senegal and how in the very early stages they shut their country down and they tested every one of their citizens for $1? And it wasn't that painful. Q-tip all the way up to your brain.
Yeah, it's
Kind
very painful. Yeah,
so you had the Q-tip up the brain
twice. Hmm.
twice.
Yeah, it's not in your brain. What they do is, it's not like they're putting it inside your nostril. They put it in and they take it all the way back and they twirl it. It makes your legs go in the air.
How is it that we can put a man on the moon and we can't come up with a better way and an easier, more simplistic way to test for the COVID than that?
There are more tests out, but they're saying that they are not as precise.
Because
Like you
it's
said,
not what they're doing is precise.
because this is the thing as well with the tests too. These tests are brand new. So the tests that they're using are basically in the testing phase, so to speak.
Oh my God, the tests are being tested and we're the guinea pigs.
Basically.
So let me go back to my story. Senegal was able to spend $1 on some kind of blood test to test every one of their citizens, and they
Hmm.
shut the country down. Nobody could go
Hmm.
in or out.
Hmm.
As a result, they only had 2 deaths.
Hmm.
How in the world are we supposed to be an alleged superpower and we are now at 200,000 deaths? Are people really dying from the COVID? Or are they dying from other things and the hospitals are capitalizing 39,000 per COVID death to claim it to be COVID? What are your thoughts about that?
I really don't have an opinion on it, because I just don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know.
How about Bill Gates speaking years ago about this pandemic,
Hmm.
as if he was participating in investing in a vaccine or a cure-all to help create such a time as now? How did he know about this pandemic years ago enough to announce it on a TED Talk? Have you seen that TED Talk?
From what I know is that he's not the only one that has spoken about a pandemic.
Okay, but
So it's,
how do you know of a pandemic coming? How do you project a pandemic and you're not a scientist, you're not a
Mhm,
doctor? Like, how
mhm.
this is my thing. Where do you think this thing originates from? Do you think it originates from Wuhan bats or do you and eating bats? Or do you think that this is something that they have colluded in a lab to do population control uh, and to bolster up the farm industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and to line their pockets?
What I have to say is, you know, based on what I experienced, it's hard for me to believe that this is something that's quote unquote natural. I mean, viruses have been here since the beginning of time. However, for something to just take over my body, and then for me to have passed it, and then to have all of these complications afterwards, it leads me to believe that is something more than just a natural virus that exists within Mother Nature. Because
Can
I'm
you
like, how do I go from being,
totally healthy,
healthy
jogging?
to having a virus, and then being told afterwards I have high blood pressure, problems with my heart, problems with my kidneys. No history in my family, nothing, no stress. Like I said, before I started to have symptoms, I was home. I was home getting paid a full salary, not working. I had no stress.
Okay. Now
For
that's
weeks,
right.
for 3 weeks, 3 weeks, getting paid full salary, not working. I wasn't working at home at the time because, like I said, we had an incident at my job where we couldn't be there. So we were just at home getting paid, not to work somewhere else. So who's going to be stressed over that?
So where do you think you had the COVID, or do you think it's some type of chemical warfare? I feel like it's a bio war going on right now. I just do. Something is not right in my gut. The way they're going about this, they're experimenting, and we are dying disproportionately as a result because we simply don't have the sick leave. We are predominantly amongst the gig and essential workers because of job discrimination. We can't get W-2 employment with benefits. Out here, we've gone from 15 to 9% as ADOS, American descendants of chattel slavery, and the Hispanic population has increased to 51%. So we have no social capital. When we go to these interviews, they are now requiring that we speak Spanish. And when we show up looking as I do, you don't have the complexion for the protection, and you have no social capital at that table to push for you. I went on, I once earned with Wells Fargo 120K a year. And during the first recession, all of that fell apart. And in my attempts to recoup that income, I went on an interview in my current profession, invited by a beautiful Hispanic woman to interview. There was a white woman and a white guy at that interview. And I wonder why the interview went exceptionally well. The job paid over 100K. I was wondering, why did this interview go exceptionally well and no one called me back? Well, I ran into her in the courts. She mentioned to me and the gentleman wanted you. Of all the candidates we've interviewed, you were the best. You were the best in terms of your education and your job experience. But my supervisor wanted to continue looking. Her supervisor was a white woman.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I'm trying to say is that because we have an affirmative action that has been largely benefiting white women and immigrants, we don't have any way to enforce fairness commensurate with our education and job experience when we're going out here to seek employment. So we're left to the gig economy. We're left to the essential jobs. We're left to the 1099s. We're left to the sole proprietorship. And woe be unto you if you're working at half of your income that you once did before the first recession under Obama. God forbid you try to get health insurance. They wanted to charge me $758 a month for a PPO, which I prefer over the HMO, which is still $550 a month. Who in the world on half their salary has $12,000 to spend on a maybe if you're otherwise very healthy? Thank God I'm not so destitute that when I became deathly ill, that I didn't have enough to go and pay the doctor, but even she was at a discount. Thank God for my friend who's coming on next Saturday, Jamie Burton Orr. She turned me on to a doctor that would see me for $50 because I didn't have health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Out here in California, you need 120K just to be comfortable. You know what time it is, Eric. You lived out here.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It's the same way here. It's the same way in New York.
So this is why we're dying disproportionate, because of accrued, ongoing, systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. And nobody wants to talk about the slavery and the Jim Crow and the private prison industrial complex and the military industrial complex and all the programs we've been denied to become even American in a country that we were in long before it was America. We were here in 1619. This country was not formed until 1776. And so we are dying disproportionate because we can't afford to be American. That's why white folks are peppering the beaches out here and nobody's coming for them.
Right.
Nobody's arresting them off the beaches. Our brothers get harassed with a simple mask on, trying to protect themselves and trying to be within the confines of the law. They get harassed. They can't congregate, at house parties. Police are coming at your door and fining you, the least of us who cannot afford it. In addition to that, they're still murdering us. Ahmaud Arbery, down in Georgia, gunned down, worse than a dog in a street. This is going on all over the country. It's just a total assail and diabolical assassination of American descendants of chattel slavery. That's who they're targeting. We are damned if we do, damned if we don't. It's coming from all directions. Please share with my family about the dismal food lines because people aren't getting their unemployment insurance for COVID they had no hand in.
Yes, I'm not sure if this is happening amongst all states, but in New York State, they have people. We've been going through this 2 months now.
Yeah.
They have people who have still not have gotten their checks from the state because they have. I mean, you hear excuses. The system is too old. It's not capturing everyone. And however, if you were to come here, there are pantry lines that are. We're not talking about 1 block, 2 blocks. They're miles. Can you imagine that? They are miles long of people with masks on a line with their children to get food because they don't have a check, that was promised to them. And, food stamps, I guess, is not enough or they don't qualify for those. So they are left to go to food pantries. This is what we are dealing with in New York City. And you mentioned to me that you wasn't aware of that, and I'm like, wow, it's just, well, it's not shocking, but it just goes to show, what the media cares to show the people,
Yeah,
that
Mario Cuomo, and
yeah.
all his white privilege,
Mhm.
being able to luxuriate and come on the camera and tell people to jump around. you know,
Well,
and they get to luxuriate with the best of foods, the best of doctors, the best of healthcare. They get
exactly,
to live. But we
exactly.
have to be on food lines with folks who can't even get tested until they can't breathe and are told to go back into their hazardous public tenement high rise housing, which is killing them anyway. Out here is such a hot mess, too, because if you're not a W 2 employee, the system kept kicking you out to zero. I've been laid off from the courts since March 16. I still have not received a check from unemployment insurance. They finally fixed the system a week or so ago to accommodate for the rest of us. Those of us who are independent contractors, self-employed, sole proprietor, gig workers.
Hmm.
We're the ones, well, God knows my salary is pretty decent, okay? But I'm speaking, I'm the voice for the voiceless right now. You understand me?
Understand? Hmm.
Because I, like you, am walking in the shoes of. Because, like I said at the top of the show, this victory and this overcoming is not just for us individually. So I'm here for the voiceless. You're here speaking to my audience as speaking for the voiceless to share about our experiences, to take the decadent veil off of the nonsense they're spinning when they put the Oprahs and the Michael Jordans and the Obamas out there like we're winning.
Right.
The majority of us are losing. And that's who I'm here to speak for and to advocate for, as is my brother. So out here, from being laid off for 2 months, they just fixed the system to take our applications. I've got money, quite a bit of it that's accumulated. Still don't have a debit card. They do debit cards out here, not checks. They told me from the time they approved my unemployment insurance, I've got to wait another 10 days to get a debit card. I can't access the money. Now, imagine if I didn't have the wherewithal to get out here in these streets, these COVID streets, and hustle.
Hmm.
That's what's happening. I can't afford to stay home. We don't have the privilege of self quarantining at home like white people.
Exactly.
We've got to go out here and keep hustling or go to the food line. So
Exactly.
when my money dried up, which thankfully I have a family who would not allow that. Thank you, family. Thank you, friends. Thank you, loved ones, okay, who made sure I was not going to be without. But imagine the majority of us who don't have that safety net. That's who I'm speaking for. So, anywho, back to the story. When I spoke, and this is another part that we got to dig into, brother, because this is problematic that we are in a COVID, and unless you've got a Fannie Mae or a Freddie Mac loan, they are not putting your mortgage on the end of the loan. My private investor, who still holds the note on this home that I live in until I pay it off, told me, well, the servicer did, that
Hmm.
they'll give me a 90-day forbearance. But in 90 days, they want a balloon payment. Who can give a balloon payment for rent or mortgage as exorbitantly high as both are without a solid stream of income?
Exactly.
So, what did I have to do? I had to get masks and gloves and get out here with the gig workers. And I did Instacart. And thankfully, I had some very privileged, white, wealthy people that tipped to me exponentially. Okay, I was clearing 360 on a good day daily. I was like, should I change professions? I'm on track to do better if I keep it this than I was in corporate. 360 a day. I mean, and it wasn't Instacart. That app don't pay no money. It was the tips in the favor of God, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
I even had to take my daughter out here in these COVID-19 streets because having her there as an extra set of hands, I could get through the batches faster. So this is what we're left to. We have to risk COVID to make sure we can pay the rent and the mortgages because they're not giving you anything but a forbearance. They're not tacking it to the back of the loan. And you don't want to lose your home because I clearly, after being laid off since March 16, have depleted the savings and can't afford $6,000 to move into an apartment. You know, once you pay first, last, middle, you know? And so this is what's happening down here. So now I've got money sitting there that I can't touch for 10 days. And who do you think this impacts the most? American descendants of chattel slavery.
Exactly.
We're the ones that are suffering this because we're the ones in these low-level positions fending for ourselves. And that's why this show, and that's why the ADOS movement, this is why we fight for reparations. I hope people can make the correlation. We now have a COVID-19 stimulus relief demand of the president. You guys, we need 100,000 signatures. I am going to post the link in the chat, but you can find it at Angela Nirvana. You can find it at Triangle ADOS. You can find it at Friends of ADOS TV. And I will be running this tape in succession round the clock so people can understand what's happening at ground zero with the COVID in New York City. Because the news is not telling us what my brother has just shared on a real level. Family, ain't no Calvary coming. Ain't no Calvary coming. It is on us to save us. Each one reach for one. You make this video go viral to help save some lives. I want to transition before I let you go, brother, into some ways to build immune and ways to fight COVID or whatever it is on your own. I started taking plant-based supplements and antiviral herbal supplements.
Mm-hmm.
I also was privileged to see Rasayana's video before YouTube took it down, where there was ADOS raving about his Rastafari home remedy, where you take a pot and boil water along with garlic, ginger, onion, and citrus rinds, and even some, you could put Himalayan sea salt in there too. You bring that to a boil, turn the fire off, and you turn your head over in it, and you put a towel over you to create a sauna. You want to inhale, exhale for 10 minutes each and every time you come in from outside. This way, if COVID is trying to make its way through to your lungs, which is when it becomes fatal, you kill it, because the reason why they're going up through the nose is that's where COVID starts. It starts through the nasal cavity. So Rasayana's video cannot be found. It's disappeared. You might be able to find him in Facebook. I don't know. But Eric spoke of a similar treatment. I also want you, and I'll let you take it over from here. I also drink a limeade or a lemonade, complete with maple syrup, cayenne pepper, and chia seeds, and maple syrup. Grade B, if you can find it, or dark grade A is great. Because as Dr. Sebi has taught us, limes and lemons and citrus are alkaline. It will alkaline your water. If you don't have access to alkaline water, this will do the treatment. Basically, the reason why I'm suggesting garlic, onion, cayenne, ginger, these things burn the body. And COVID can't survive in heat. That's why we've been praying for the summer weather. because COVID can't live in the body if you heat the body up. So, those are some of my home remedies to help you build immune and make sure your body is, what did you call it? Eric, you used a beautiful term.
Homeostasis. You build a homeostasis with your body, which is balance.
Yeah,
And that's very key. Like all of the things that you have mentioned, even if you were to cook with that, because that's what I did. I cooked with a lot of garlic. I cooked with a lot of ginger, and those things did help me a lot. And just as well, you know, a lot of illnesses, they really, you mentioned that COVID comes through your nose. However, how we allow a lot of viruses and bacteria to harmful bacteria to build up, because we are made up of bacteria within our gut. It all starts in the gut. So we really have to get down to what we are eating. You have to stay away from foods that are going to inflame your body anyway. That's going to cause mucus and inflame your body. And this is another reason why black and brown people are, you know, having more of a challenge when they do contract this virus, because the body is so inflamed already at the jump start. So you would do yourself best if you can do a plant-based diet, do it. If you can't, I would say, you stay away from things that causes mucus in your body. Definitely stay away from dairy. That's a no-no, especially during this time. Whatever you can alternate just to stay away from dairy, do so. And hopefully your body will become more accustomed to not having dairy, where you never go back to it. Because our body is not built for cow's milk. We're not cows. Cow's milk is for calves.
yes, thank you. You also mentioned staying away from grains. You were having oatmeal, and someone advised not to do the oatmeal.
A microbiologist advised to stay away from grains as well, because grains causes mucus in the body, and that's where, if the virus gets into you, it'll have more of a larger playground, because you have accumulated mucus within your cells. So you would stay away from grains and whole grain. Just leave it alone for right now if you can. You
And
know.
there are wonderful alternatives at the Whole Foods to
Hmm.
transition you from that are nut based if you're not allergic. Like
Right.
I love the almond milks.
Almond milk.
Think of
Yep.
this culture. You can, I know it's an adjustment, family, but we can't be slaves to our palates. Okay.
Hmm.
You definitely want to hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Your home, near your bathroom, but that water is the key to flush out these toxins that have taken residency in the body. And like
Hmm.
I said, alkaline all your water with fresh
Right.
lime juice and fresh lemon juice. I just went to stock up today, and get your fruits and vegetables in. And these are great alternatives. I love my Granny Smith apples with a little bit of caramel sauce in them. That is like a nice little dessert for me.
Hmm.
You just have to find alternatives, family, because our life depends on it. Um, Someone was saying that. Corbett says, stay away from beans and rice. What do you think about?
Yes. 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 Stay away from beans and rice. Don't eat beans and rice. Stay away from beans and stay away from rice.
I say stay
Toxic.
away from all the whites
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now. Just white rice, white pasta.
Just rice in general, because rice doesn't have any nutritional value to it. It doesn't.
Not even brown rice.
No. Rice has no value to it. Wild rice does, because wild rice is not really rice.
Mm. You learned something new today. Could you also share that you're doing Rasayana sauna too? You, when I was sharing with you about the Rasayana's sauna, you mentioned that you were also creating a concoction that you inhaled yourself. Could you share about what you're doing?
No, what I was telling you was that someone had recommended something similar to what you have said, but that's not something that I did within my process
Okay.
because because like luckily for me, I guess this is what I was speaking to with my diet. It didn't bother my lungs that much because of my diet, because it was really nothing much for it to like formulate there. I was feeling more of it because of my running. Had I not been running, I probably would have not even shown any symptoms. But my running is what triggered it in me because I stressed my lungs. So that's how my symptoms came about. But as far as breathing and things of that sort, I was able to breathe. It's just that I had the extreme chest pain.
Um, when you say you stressed your lungs,
Hmm.
you think that that's how you became susceptible to the COVID from
I'm
jogging?
saying, I'm saying that's how I could have. I'm theorizing. This is me and my doctor. We're theorizing. I could have gone about with not presenting symptoms, that I carried the virus, but I was not symptomatic of it. But the running is what triggered it, where it tipped me over so that I started to have symptoms because I stressed my lungs, and then it just started to lead to other things because I put my lungs in a basically taking care of myself, and then the virus entering my nose, I put my I put my lungs in a more compromised position than they were at already, but I didn't know that I had COVID. So I'm running miles with COVID. Basically, that's what I was doing
And it caught
every night,
up with you.
and it caught up with me, right?
Wow.
And like I said, I'm thinking that it's the Lysol spray because that's when I noticed. I'm like, when I came home, and I'm like, why am I out of breath? Why is my chest hurting? Why do I feel funny? Why do I feel faint? So the only thing that I could connect to it was Clorox wipes. It's a bunch of chemicals, Lysol spray. This is what I'm using when I'm coming home. And this is when I'm feeling dizzy. This is when I'm feeling faint. But however, it wasn't that, because once I stopped doing that, the symptoms never left. They just got worse.
Um, can you talk? I wanted to back you up before I pray us out.
Hmm.
You mentioned at the top of the show that you started protecting yourself when you heard the news coming out of Northern California about the COVID. I didn't know that that's where it started in this country. I thought that New York was always the epicenter because of the Europeans and all the immigrants that live there. Can you back that up?
Well, I started to hear about COVID when it was in Northern California and in Washington. That's when we started to hear about it coming into the United States. And then
It was
um
Washington State and Northern California is where the
yeah,
first news broke about the COVID.
out out here, yes, yes. And
That's
then later on,
amazing to me. I didn't know.
yeah, yeah. And then later, like in March, that's when we had the attorney in Westchester County tested positive, and then that's how they closed down Westchester County. And then they realized that we had people in New York that had brought the virus over from Europe.
So it's not just a Chinese thing, or maybe it originated in China, but it had already hit
So they
Europe.
say
Those Europeans coming into the country was impacting the people in New York.
on the East Coast, yes.
But other groups aren't dying just as disproportionate as we are because they've got the money to get healed from it, and they can, quarantine in spaces that aren't toxic.
It's it goes to what you said, where the people who are out working still in New York, riding the subway, who are living, four, five, six people to an apartment.
That's a
They
thousand
are,
square feet around,
yeah,
if that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. They are being exposed more each day.
And yet they want to open up the city for work.
Exactly. The
How?
thing is, until this virus starts to affect other groups in large numbers, that's when they're going to pay attention.
As long as it's affecting ADOS,
Because that's who it's affecting mostly in New York.
that's all over the country, brother.
Right.
They won't even tell us the percentage of New Yorkers inflicted with the COVID virus, nor the numbers of deaths of ADOS. We don't know that data.
There's some data that came out. I don't know whether or not it's accurate, but the New York Times just broke everything down and they sent something out. So you may want to Google that. They
Okay.
broke everything. They broke everything down for state by zip code, and I think by race and nationality as well.
But what took
So
so long to do that?
not not that I'm saying is correct. I'm just saying that there has been something that has been broken down.
But why did it take so long to have this data?
I'm like, why did it take so long for them to shut things down?
Right.
You know, Florida was barely shut down. Atlanta barely shut down and opened up before it really got shut down.
Because it's
New York City, New York City of all places should have been shut down immediately. We have a transit system that's a subway, that's Metro North, that's Long Island Railroad, that's Amtrak. People come into New York City from Rhode Island to work, from Connecticut to work, from Pennsylvania to work, from Jersey to work. You have people coming into New York from upstate, from everywhere. It's a total breeding ground for this virus. So
I thank you. Any closing words to the family before I bid you adieu? We have to stay in touch now because I don't like feeling panicked. I need to hear from you. At least I'd like to hear from you daily, but at least every other day would give me peace. You know, I love you, Black. I love you so strong.
I
I just
love you too.
love me some you. Any closing words to my audience? Trust me, they are in the building. I started a live on my phone, live watch party. I will be sharing this as soon as this concludes. I'm going to start another watch party until this thing goes viral. I can't thank you enough for being on the live and for sharing with my beautiful ADOS family and our allies about your experience so candidly. We were blind and now we can see a little bit more clear thanks to your openness and love for our people. We now know what we're up against and what we need to do to stay alive. Any closing words from you to my audience?
Yes, I do. Again, I just wanted to just leave everyone with a warning to stay conscious of your health. When something is wrong with you, don't do like what I've done and what I have heard other people have done to excuse it away. Say it's this, say it's that, this is causing it. You have to contact, hopefully you can contact a medical professional, and you really have to push. You have to push for your health, because I have had to push for my health, push for them to test me, push for them to take a test, push for them to look at my heart, push for them to do so many different things. You have to push, and you have to do it for your relatives as well, those who cannot advocate for themselves, you know. And for anyone that has experienced COVID symptoms, you have to remain vigilant as to what your body is doing and what your body is telling you. If you feel chest pain, if your legs, starts to feel numb, it's not in your head. It's pain and something is wrong. Something is off balance, and you have to seek help immediately. Even if you are turned down, like I said, it's different, within states, is different within cities, the type of care that is available to you. But you have to seek it out. Don't wait until it's too late, because like I said, this thing, it does more to you than just compromise your lungs. It compromises your liver, it compromises your kidney, it compromises your heart, it compromises your nervous system, it compromises many other things. And no one knows how long, and no one knows to what extent. Like you said earlier, this is still a testing thing, and basically when they are treating you as well, a lot of things, it's an experiment, because they don't know. Even some medicines, it's a compassionate basis, because it's like, well, this is what we have, so therefore, do you want to try it? And this is what has happened, within many hospitals, where they have been treated as a study, because no one understands this, and there's just not enough data yet. It's like you ask for the data as to how it has affected us, and you're saying, okay, why are we just getting this? It's just so much that we still have to learn still. And I just, on that note, I just want to wish everyone, peace and light, and just stay vigilant with your health, and and eat as best as you can. Eat healthy, eat healthy. Vegetables and fruits, they're your friend.
One last question of you. Will you take the vaccine that they're trying to push on us? They're talking
See,
about releasing a vaccine in September when it normally takes years before a vaccine has been means tested enough to administer. I don't even take a flu shot. Would you
the
trust
thing is,
a COVID-19 vax in a couple of months?
no, no. But that's the thing too, where there are hundreds of companies developing different vaccines, you know. Some vaccines is there's a company called um, Moderna. Now they're creating a vaccine where you don't. This is from what I remember, where they are not injecting you with live virus. They have some vaccine where they are giving you some, I don't know what it is, but it's for to help your body to program itself so that when this virus presents itself, it knows how to reject it. With that being said, different companies have different viruses, are creating different vaccines. How this vaccine is going to work in your body, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a medical professional, but there are different vaccines and we just don't know. 3 months, 6 months? No, no.
I'd rather take my chances on my own immune.
Yeah.
I'd rather take my chances than to allow them to vaccinate me or my daughter. I don't trust any of it. I don't. Well, with that said, I'm going to close with my prayer of protection, family. I hope that this has enlightened you um, based on this play by play experience of my brother. And I pray you take heed to some of the ways to stay safe and COVID free. I love you guys, Black. I love you, Strong. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever ADOS and its allies are, God truly is, because you are the face of God. You are the voice of God. You are the body temple, the living body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Until next time, family, you make it a beautiful, God inspired rest of your evening. And I'll catch up with you again real soon this Saturday. Peace and love. Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
You hold on.
Yes.
I'm just going to conclude the show. You hold on.